Hello, Vanakkam, and welcome back to Chennai LitFest 2020 live day two sessions. I'm happy to start off this day two sessions of Chennai LitFest 2020 with a discussion with author Martin Frank from Switzerland. We also have other two sessions lined up. The next session would be at 7 p.m., which is a book reading session, which is curated by Gireesh, Sneha, Nivedha, and Viji. And the final session for the day is a workshop, which is done by Priyadarshini and Kirti. And let's have straight away dive into the session today, and let's have Martin Frank, who'd be joining us to discuss about his book Ocean of Love. And before that, let me introduce Martin Frank to you. Martin Frank was born in 1950 in Bern, Switzerland. Martin Frank grew up in Bern and Zurich. Between 1969 to 1981, he worked on and off in IT and spent time in India learning Sanskrit, Hindi, Urdu, and spoken Tamil. His Feki is a Bastard was the first gay book in Swiss German, a bestseller and successful movie which won the Swiss Film Prize in 1999. He wrote radio plays and features for the Swiss Public Radio, film scripts, play, and poems. The main German gay publisher, Mannesschwarm, published in 2012 a German translation of Martin Frank's Indian novel, Ocean of Love. The famous literary publisher, Egon Ammann, published Martin Frank's La Mort de Chevrolet, that is, Chevy's Death, which was hailed as a cornerstone of Swiss German prose. The novella Blind Brothers, set in Lucknow, received book prize of the town of Burney in 2001. For the gay Thai magazines, Thai Guys and Sticky Rice, Martin wrote the popular series Great Expectations, Pee and Puke, and Love Secrets from the lobby of the Trantwan Palace Hotel. In 2019, the Swiss literary publisher Menschen Versant published 4 poems by Martin Frank, as I Am No More With You. At present, he is working on a novel called Venice, 1911, the true story of Thomas Mann's death in Venice. Martin Frank lives with the same 2 friends for more than 40 years. Together, they brought up 2 straight sons and now have 6 grandchildren, a large, happy family. And welcome to Martin Frank.
Thank you, Moulee.
Yeah. So, Martin, it's indeed a pleasure to have you at our LitFest this year. And I'm going to straight away jump into the first question. Is that fine with you?
I'm sorry?
I said, let's straight away get into the discussion about the book Ocean of Love. Is that fine with you, or you have anything else to say before that?
Thank you, and welcome to everybody who is watching.
Great. So this book was first written in English, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if I'm not wrong, like you spent your time in India in the mid 1970s, and the book was written in the early 2000s. So if I'm correct, there were like 25 years gap between the time that you were in India and when the book was written. So what interested you to write this book 25 years later?
Okay, for a long time, I tried to push my Tamil friends to write, but they didn't, even though one of my friends studied Boulevard and the other one is a violinist. So then after much trying, I combined the 2 persons into one and wrote their book myself.
Good. So how difficult was it, or how easy was it for you to bring back those memories or bring back the 70s when you were writing in the 2000s?
I was lucky because magazine Granta from London, they asked me to write a short story. And so I wrote a short story version of Ocean of Love and sent it to them. And they said, it's too long. You have to make it shorter. And then when I tried to make it shorter, it just got longer and longer until it was a full book. And so it all came by itself. It was not the plan.
Okay. So when I read the book, especially the book interested me because the book is set in 1970s. That was time even before I was born. And the book is also about men who desire other men. And I think Ocean of Love is one of the few books that talks about desire of men written or that is set in contemporary India. And for me it was also more closer to home because the story is majorly set in Chidambaram, and so that also interested me to read the book, um, and the characters that you brought in, and there is also Caucasian, a white man, who is a main part of the story, and I think this diverse characters and also the complex characters, even the main lead is a very complex person in the book. How did you bring them? Because now you had the task of bringing in a Caucasian man in the 1970s, and then an Indian lead character, a Tamil speaking person with a complex characters. Like, how did you manage to bring those layered characters in the book? How did you try to bring them in?
I just did it. I didn't kind of study how to do it. Also, I wrote a large part of it in Bali, and I just wrote it by hand in a notebook. And then I went back to Switzerland and started on the laptop. But my plan was really very rough. It was just the short story which I wrote for Granta, and it grew, and I had ideas, and it got better. So it's really one of my favorite novel of all I've written.
Okay, that's good to know. So the book is also like, for example, the main character, the lead character, is not necessarily gay, and but then the book is all about men who desire about other men, and so I think like within the community, like within the gay community, this is something that is understood. A person can desire other man without having any labels, and to bring that to words, like how was the reception for the book when you brought out this complex character who does not identify as gay but then desires men throughout the story?
Well, I think for the English edition was only read by Indians, and you know how Indians are always very skeptical when foreigners write anything about India. So that was a bit difficult. But then when the book came out in German, it was really nice that like gay reading groups, they would adopt it as their book of the month and then all read it and discuss together. And I think that Arun is not gay makes it even more interesting, because if he would be the gay character and he tells about himself, it would be less complex than when he has to think about himself and think about his brother. And so, yeah, I like the story, and it came out better than I expected.
I think you were right about Indians being skeptical about foreigners writing about India. So when I first came across the book, I think even I was skeptical, to be honest, right? And only after I started reading, it interests. So one, the language was very easy for me to understand, and it just pulled me inside. So I really enjoyed reading it. And yes, like I said, I was skeptical. And so also there was this interesting review that I read about the book, which you sent. But before going to that review, I think like, shall I read a small passage from the book? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is from towards the end of the book, like towards the epilogue, and I think this is a very sweet part in the book, which I also enjoyed. And this is how it goes. At the breakfast table, Madam Sheila talks with Ernest, while Mary watches me play with my teacup. Is she censoring me? Hari and Madhu are listening to the witty things Madam Sheila is saying. I am listening too, with closed eyes, but not to Madam Sheila, to the sounds around us, the birds in the palm trees, the waves crashing onto the beach. Madam Sheila's language is laughing, distant Ikka bells and rickshaw drivers' shouts. Hari begins to sing the Queen's song with a high Bollywood lip sync voice. The squirrels are chasing each other. My pet doves are in love. Madam Sheila asks him, what film is this from? Rani. Is it new? Ernest asks. Is the music by Ilayaraja? No, A.S. Arun. I am grinning stupidly, ashamed that all can see how happy I am. And Mary looks at me and taking the song from Hari, sings the line which was censored at the youth festival. Monkeys do what monkeys like, and monkeys like what monkeys do. I am ashamed to be happy, to see how happy Mary, Madhu, and Hari are, to see me happy, makes me feel that probably, if only I could manage to keep these people together, it would be all right. I look at Madhu, at Mary, at Hari, and at Ernest and Madam Sheila, and then back at Mary, who with her delicate fingers lightly taps the rhythm on the table, brilliantly hitting the offbeats, and in her eyes, I can see that she loves me because I am stupid, which must be the most beautiful reason to be loved for. I love her too. I think this brings in the character of Arun, the complex character of Arun. This whole two passages, and I really enjoyed this. But going back to the review of the book that we were talking about earlier, so the review, I think the person who wrote the review or their impression about the book after reading the English version, I found it highly homophobic, and also they were trying to, bring in the dynamics between the two lead characters, that is Ernest and Arun. And how did you feel when you read that review?
Well, I felt I really liked it because um, this is written from an Indian who is very angry with Ernest about all the bad things he's doing with Arun. And so he completely forgets that I have written the book. And so I felt very happy that even though he has a different opinion and he doesn't like the book, he accepts the book as an Indian book, and not, for him the text is an Indian text. It's not the text by a white man. And of course, I know the person who wrote the review. He studied English literature, but this homophobic, of course, this I knew, and this is very normal in India at the time.
Right, but then at that time, as in you mean when the book was released in the 2000s?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And it's also interesting because somewhere, like I think it reinforces where uh, the person was able to differentiate or detach from reality, from you, because they were your friend, and they detached the whole earnest character from the writer, and were able to see it as happening, or some stranger is doing whatever is happening in the book. And I think that is also very typical of how people react to, these things don't happen in India, or these are not native to us. I think That's very interesting for me to read as well. And thank you for sharing that review with me. And so next question I have for you is like, how you said the book was received well, the German book was received well in Switzerland. And so was there any other follow-up? Like, was there any other reaction from the audience for the book?
Yeah, I'm lucky. I always get, except this Indian review, I always get very nice reviews in the newspapers or in the radio. And so, yeah, I got reviews which said, you have to read it 2 times. And yeah, I was really lucky with the reviews, and I think the first edition sold out within 1 year, so it's quite okay.
So, do you think the Indians, when they read this book, especially the queer community, when they read this book, there might be a different reaction to the book? Because I believe most of them who read the book earlier, they were straight. And do you think the anger came from a place of homophobia?
Well, I think the big difference is that for Germans or Swiss, the book was like an introduction into South Indian culture, while for Indians, this is they already know it. So India is not new to Indians, and regarding to this life stage homosexuality, this is something which generally, even in Western countries, people kind of forget radically. So as soon as boys start to have sexual relations with girls, they erase in their memory whatever happened before. And I think for Indians, it is interesting that Arun is a good person, but is also a little bit a bad person, and he's a complicated person. He's not just the good one, and Ernest is the bad one. They are both mixed bags.
Yes. So yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, because it's the most common thing that gay men or like the younger age, young gay persons are told like this is a phase, and this happens, and then like you move on with your life. And I think that has been the whole reaction from what you say, and I hope to see how the reaction is from the gay community once they read the book. What do you think? Like, what your guess is? Like, how are people going to react to the book?
Okay, I think I'm very lucky because Gireesh, he's so fitting as a translator so well. Actually, he should play Arun in the movie. It would be really perfect. So there, I'm lucky that he is kind of adopting the story, and once his translation will be out, everybody will consider that the English edition is a translation of Gireesh's novel.
I hope we need to see Gireesh how he feels closer with Arun, the translator. But I also like I'm very curious to know the reaction because this is not the conventional gay love story. This is a complex story about homosexuality and men who desire other men. So I think we have to wait for the translation. And by the way, yes, the translation would be in Tamil. So we probably would be released early next year, hopefully. And so my question now is like, why do you think this book is important to be in Tamil? Why do you want the translation to be in Tamil?
Well, I wanted it to be written not by me and to be written in kind of spoken or at least vernacular Tamil, or how would you say, everyday Tamil, not classical Tamil. And so that's why I already wrote it in Indian English, but I think it has to go home to Chennai and Chidambaram, and it belongs there. So it is a book for these people.
Are you really curious? Like, are you curious to know how the people would react for the book?
Yes,
I think
very
we need
much.
to wait for that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry that I cannot be with you now. Otherwise, I would be there. But once it comes out, and if COVID is over, then I will come, and I, I, I will try to hear myself how people feel about it.
Yeah, hopefully, I think yes, we would be. I hope soon this pandemic ends and be able to meet in person in a future literary festival, probably in Chennai also. And I think it is also interesting for me. Is also the book carries a lot of information, especially a lot of landmarks from Chennai, Chidambaram, Mahapalipuram, and Pondicherry, which no more exists. And do you think the audience, the younger audience today in Tamil Nadu, will understand when you mention few landmarks in the book?
Well, I think for them, it is already a book from the last century, and the emergency is something like Second World War or First World War for us. But I think it's important to remember this time for so that to compare with today's time. Yeah,
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, for me also when I started reading the book, especially because you had translated, certain songs, Tamil songs, and Hindi songs into English, and I was not familiar with the older songs, especially Hindi songs, and it was difficult for me to find what those songs are. But then, more interestingly, it was difficult for me to relate with certain um, journey that was mentioned in the book, and especially uh, I could not imagine certain aspects like people hanging out in a coffee shop in the 70s, because it never occurs to me in my mind that my parents would have hung out in coffee shop in the 70s. But then it happens in the book where they meet, right? And it's interesting because now this is something that not only challenges about the heteronormativity that we carry or we assume exists in India, but also the kind of lifestyle that has been projected. And I think we should wait for the audience response once people read the book in English and Tamil, and probably see how their reactions are. And are you hopeful that it's going to be positive?
yeah, yeah. I'm. This is the fate of the writer is always that I write the book and the others read it, and they have to judge it. So I'm really looking forward to hear what they are going to say.
Yeah, I saw something that we are, towards the end of the session. But then, if I have to say something, the book is really interesting. It is complex. It brings in multiple narratives and not just about the lead characters. And I think the book is is something that brings in further conversation, that it helps us to bring in more conversation with regards to gay literature in India, and also especially in Tamil. And it would be interesting for us to see how easier for us it would be going forward to talk about complex relationships among men or persons of same gender in India. And I am looking forward to actually read the book, the final book in Tamil, as well as someone who has read it in English. Now I'm very interested to read the book in Tamil as well. So we will keep posted about the release of the book in Tamil soon. And thank you very much for joining us in 2020 Quill LitFest Chennai. It was a pleasure having you and to discuss with you about the book Ocean of Love.
Okay, thank you, Moulee, and thank you everybody for listening. And I wish you that the festival will be a success.
Thank you very much, Martin. And thank you everyone for joining us in the first session of the Chennai Quill LitFest 2020 live. And our next session is Vaasippu Medai. It is a reading session which would start at 7 p.m. India time, that is 30 minutes from now. And again, the festival, you can watch them live on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages. And if you have any comments, if you want to discuss with the speakers, or if you want to send in your feedback, you can comment them on the platform that you are watching, and we will be able to see them and also display them if you have any questions to the speakers. And also, do not forget to tune in next weekend, where we have 2 more days of the festival on the 26th and 27th, which starts at 6 p.m. as today. And thank you very much for joining us, and see you all again at 7 p.m. today. And yes, goodbye.